distraction. I hope that a lot of these issues would kind of die out or lower or whatever, but they continue to be a constant source of distraction for this council. We are continuously dealing with these issues. It's become a cost center almost for legal fees and attorney fees with all these public records requests. And it seems like we're always dealing with some sort of issue with this sort of thing. One of the biggest problems that I've observed is this confusion of buying election and misrepresentation of being the mayor's assistant and dealing with other municipalities and public officials. There's this misperception that she's speaking on behalf of the city or representing the city, and I think that's very wrong, and it has to stop. It has to stop right now. It's been a source of confusion. We've had feedback from other municipal agencies that it's not going well for Bel Air Beach and speaking with one voice, and it's wrong. I think it needs to end.
Thank you. Marky?
I've worked with June going from park to park, and she's has come up with a lot of fantastic ideas. There's many of them still on the table. She's done a lot to talk to other people and get the history of what we did in the past, and it's worked out. We've had the events were very nice, well thought out, well planned. A lot of personal time involved. And what the other issues are, they are. Those seem to be more of a personal issue, not having anything to do with the operation of the city. At least it shouldn't have. But that's what happened. But as far as removing her for performance, I can't see it.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Lee. Everyone's concluded that I'm going to say what I want to say.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, so I agree, June, you've done a great job with, with the Parks Board and doing events and that sort of thing, and kind of opening up our eyes to that. Unfortunately, with COVID, we've been put on hold with a lot of that stuff. The emails that I've received regarding the public records request were kind of eye-opening, I guess, to me. I didn't know all this was going on behind the scenes, to the point where I had a conversation with Lynn about, can we get our city attorney involved and maybe kind of do a mediation and, work between Ms. Van Spoik and Ms. Colucci and try to come to some sort of agreement and satisfy some of these personality conflicts. Unfortunately, I had that conversation with Lynn, and the very next day I get an email where Ms. Colucci's place of employment, there was this presentation just discussing her, their history and just bringing it out in front of her employer. And I think that overstepped the line for me. I think this no longer is about our Parks and Rec and our city and, all this of, you can do a great job, but sometimes you're maybe not the best communicator, or there's ways to diffuse some of these situations. And I think that rather than trying to diffuse it and work through it, it got escalated by this visit to the Bel Air Shores city meeting. And with that said, it just made me take a step back and go, this is completely inappropriate. If someone contacted my employer and complained about me as a resident of Bel Air Beach, I would just be appalled. And I am at this level. And I think up to this point I was okay. I think it could have been worked through, but at this point that drew a line in the sand and causes a more extreme situation in my view. And I think that, you know, and just representing yourself as maybe a city official might be a little gray to me. I don't know a whole lot about that background, but this letter really put a nail in the coffin, in my opinion. But that's kind of just all I want to say. I just think it's completely inappropriate.
I guess it's my turn. Barbara Colucci is a city employee. She is a public official. She is subject to the same criticism that she gives to other people. Barbara Colucci is in the room right now, just so you know. Barbara Colucci made comments to this city council complaining about her perceived inability, I'm taking this off, to receive a records request that she wasn't entitled to. You're not entitled to a records request when the person doesn't have a record. How do we know that? Well, June Van Scoy is going to tell you that she made the same request of Patty Gentry for telephone records here, and the city said, we don't keep them, and we're not giving them to you. This is another case of our city treating one person one way and another person another way. Either you supply the phone records or you don't supply them. And the law says you don't have to if you don't have them. Now, the forum of bringing a complaint, and a city clerk should know this, in my opinion, to the city council is wholly and 100% inappropriate. The proper venue is a court of law. That's what the public records law of the statute of the state of Florida says. You don't bring it to the council, you bring it to a court of law. And you make your allegations, and Ms. Van Scoy will get herself an attorney. And I am not conflicted out of that one. I probably will be that attorney. And if you lose, you will pay attorney's fees. So if you're sure of your position, by all means, bring it to court and challenge it. But if you lose, be prepared to pay attorney's fees. That's the penalty that Florida puts on people who make frivolous records requests. Ms. Van Scoy had to endure a memo sent to this entire city council in which Barbara Colucci, the town clerk of the city of the town of Bel Air Shore, slammed me as the mayor, slammed Marv Beam as a liar, Councilmember Beam, and slammed the Parks Board chairman as violating state law based on unproven allegations, despite the fact that Ms. Van Scoy has said she never made any conversation with Ms. Colucci's boss initially. This body here is not a trier of fact. That is not our purpose. As for comments about sunshine violations, I don't know as an attorney what that allegation is. Ms. Van Scoy is not a member of the council, and as such, all conversations that I have with her are not subject to the sunshine. We make sunshine law up in this city, I know. We have people on our council who don't get it. Rita Swope, on the date of my inauguration, told the judge that I violated the sunshine law.
Point of order.
No point of order. This is a fact.
It's
not well-founded.
We need to go back to the agenda. It's about removing this Van Scoy.
And I'm talking right now.
Okay, but Rita Swope
This is
on
not-
the bill has nothing to do with
Yes,
it.
it does. I'm talking about the sunshine, and this is not debatable. I don't find it well-founded. If the council wants to appeal it, I'll go through an appeal. The fact is, on the night of my inauguration, she went to the judge that I brought here and made a Sunshine Act violation to the
That
judge.
is not true.
Yes, it is.
I never did.
Okay, then,
I
Judge.
never
Okay,
spoke
excuse
to
me.
that
Point of
judge.
order. You're out of order. Do not interrupt me. I did not interrupt you.
It's something I didn't do.
But then okay, Judge Moore, the circuit court judge in Pinellas County, came to June and I afterwards and said, "What's with your council member?" She made I'm going to ask you one more time to stop interrupting me. This is the third time. Mr. Riley, one more time it triggers the removal. You understand, right? We talked about this. I've given her 3 warnings. floor. I'm not listening to anything at this point. I've listened to everyone else. You have no right to interrupt. You cannot call the question. You're not allowed to interrupt. Please learn Robert's Rules of Order, Mr. Gunn, please. You did it in June when you were chairing the meeting, so you're out of order also. You can't call a question. You cannot interrupt. Go look it up. And I'll stop the meeting if you want, and I'll research it with the city attorney. I'm getting a little annoyed with people interrupting me. I listen to everyone else.
Mayor, what I would like to do is just call a point of order just for a second, just so you can calm down.
Thank you.
And lower your voice
Okay.
and just relax, okay? Take some breaths and then please
Let
resume.
Fred answer your question.
I don't have a question.
Oh, sorry, I thought there was a question.
I know the rules of order. I have them right here. You can't call a question. You're not permitted to interrupt. And we're not going to call a question before public comment. I don't think the city attorney will approve of that. The public has a right to be heard.
I think calling the question is non-debatable.
No, okay, all right. I'm going to call a brief recess so I can get out my rules of order, and I'm going to read it to Vice Mayor Gunn so he can understand Robert's Rules of Order. Then I'm going to get back to what I'm saying. I don't care how long we're here.
Mayor, before you do that, could I just suggest that you continue with making the points that you're making, and that it's already 10 till 11, and you still have quite a few things to cover. I wanted to make a couple comments because there's a few legal issues. But,
Oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. I'm being interrupted, but I'm going to get to that.
okay.
Let's just get to calling the question. I can barely see with these glasses tonight, so. Okay, end debate and amendments. I move the previous question. May you interrupt speaker? No. Does anybody want to read this? Here's the little cheat sheets. Does anybody want to read these? Anybody want to appeal my decision? I'll proceed. It's not the purview of this council to make up rules and say what Sunshine Act feels like or they think it is. If you're calling the circuit judge a liar, that's not a problem. That's what the circuit judge told us. Your interpretation of the law was wrong, and it's been wrong many, many times before. We go to ethics courses every year, but apparently we still don't grasp the Sunshine Law. I can talk to June Van Scoy all I want. We have husbands and wives presently serving on the same board right now in this city. Husbands and wives. And that's not a sunshine law as long as they don't talk about something. It's ludicrous to make up law that you're not entitled to make. It's ludicrous to sit here and make decisions that you don't have the statutory authority to make. You do not have the right as a council. This is an illegal act by this council. You do not have a right to decide issues of public records requests. If the Colucci's are upset, go to court. Your Colucci threatened that. He's right here. Go to court. I'll argue the case for her. Okay? So, let's talk about the law. As I've said, Barbara Colucci is a public official. She's subject to the same criticism she levels on everyone else. Just the same criticism that we all are. Okay? It's a higher standard. When we signed on to do these roles, she's actually paid. We're volunteered, but it doesn't matter. When you signed on to do the role of the city administrator, when Reeves is the same situation, he's a public official. People criticize him, people love him. We all get that. And it goes with the territory. If you don't like it, quit. That's what Rick Colucci told me once. So, if you don't like it, quit. Now, when June Van Scoy goes across the street and speaks in any capacity to the town of Bel Air Shore, she's doing it as a private citizen. I read from her presentation, and she says, "Good evening." I'm not going to read the whole thing. "My name is June Van Scoy. I'm a resident of Bel Air Beach, and I'm the chairperson of the Bel Air Beach Parks and Recreation Board. I'm also the life partner of the Honorable Joseph A. Manzo, Mayor of Bel Air Beach." Get this part. I speak with you this evening strictly on my own behalf. I'll say it again. I speak with you this evening strictly on my own behalf. After hearing that sentence, if anybody could say she's representing the city, you're just not listening. She spoke on her own behalf. As such, she's a concerned citizen. So concerned was she at our relationship between the two cities, and remember, we swim in their beaches, okay? That she went over to express the concern of how one person was souring the relationship, insulting council member Bean, insulting herself, and insulting me. Unjustified in all situations. She is a concerned citizen. That comes under what's called the United States Constitution, First Amendment right of free speech. There's a specific category. She is a concerned citizen. She has full protection of that document. Not only does she have full protection of that document, she has full protection of the Florida State Constitution, which also provides her with protection for her freedom of speech. I will not support this motion, and I will tell you why I'm not going to support this. Patty, I want for what I say here in the record, intact, without edit.
Mayor,
Yes,
when you are ready to be stopped,
I will tell you yes. I'm sorry. And if I don't, let me know, okay?
Okay.
42 U.S. Code 1983, civil action for the deprivation of rights. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to read the operative piece. Every person who under color of statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state, territory, of the District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress. Councilwoman Swope has just got the city into a Section 1983 lawsuit, if June Van Scoy wishes to push it. The reasons given, and I'm glad that these are being recorded, are that this is not conduct in keeping with our city, that she exceeded her boundaries that are not delineated in any paperwork or any rules. She, again, like I said earlier, I didn't check my First Amendment rights at the door, neither did she when she became Parks Chairman. So you're being basically harassed and removed in retaliation because, as everyone knows, Rita Swope is friends with Barbara Colucci, and that's fine. But it's not fine when it comes to the law. Our city charter is of no matter when it says you could remove people for any reason, because this is an illegal reason. It's as bad as removing a person for race, color, or creed. It is illegal. And it goes one step further why I won't support it. We swore an oath that night that Judge Moore came here. And I told Judge Moore that I solemnly swear that I affirm that I will support, honor, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. By doing this, you have violated your oath of office and you are subject to recall and removal. I will not support this. I reject all argument that there's any validity whatsoever. If you want her not to refer to herself as the assistant to mayor, perhaps you can give me an assistant. Or maybe she'll just not call herself that. I think that's a reasonable compromise. I urge this council to run, not walk away from this, because you're making bad evidence, and there's 3 cameras back there recording it. That will stop it, Patty. Thank you very much for the detail. I will be voting no. Any other council comments before I take it to the floor?
I still just think this is more of a personal issue, and I think it's just gotten way out of hand. And I think that we just need to drop this, because this is just too much. It's just, all it's doing is just making matters worse. And I think that what we need to do is just stop this. I'm voting no, because I think she's done an excellent job as the Park and Rec Board, and that's what it is. What she does on her personal time with other residents, and if they have a fight over the color of their shoes, I don't care. But as a Park and Board Rec Chairman, she's done a phenomenal job, and I think she should continue. And that's, to me, is what this issue is about. It's to remove her from the Park and Rec Board. It's not to remove her from Bel Air Beach, not to remove her from the mayor's life. It's not to remove her from this hall. It's to remove her from the Park and Rec Board, and she has not done anything. So personal issues aside, get over it, come together, kumbaya, don't talk, I don't care. Let's drop it. I feel like I'm in high school. Drop it. Okay? She's done fine with her job. I'm voting no on this because I still want her to keep doing the Park and Recs and plan everything.
Well, since you're always the first to call people out and make accusations or imply that someone has an underlying motive, let me set the record straight for you, Ms. Aki.
That's Dr. Aki.
Okay, wait, 1 second, I'm going to call point of order. Please just, David, if you would just refer to the council as a whole, okay, she'll know who you're talking about, okay?
My reasoning for what I said has nothing to do with Barbara Colucci. It has nothing to do with any disagreement between these two ladies. It has nothing to do with what's happened. I know some things, but overall, I have stepped completely away from this and purposely not been dragged into the mud over this. Some people may have a personal agenda, I do not. By now, most people should be able to recognize that. The only reason why I am leaning towards voting for this is because I feel that there are just actions that are not appropriate and don't look well to the city. I have never said that there was a sunshine law violation. I have never made any accusations like that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to basically give our city a little push into the right direction. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with me, but there's just been too much conflict over everything since the last election, and I'm ready for it to end. And I believe that this is a good start. So,
My rebuttal to that is, I don't understand what the first part of that comment is, that you're the first person to point out. I guess you're referring to me, because I feel that I'm not the first person to point fingers. I see myself as pretty laid back, and I like to just be objective, and I point out the wrong when it's wrong, I point out the right when it's right. I have no agenda, I'm friends. I think Barbara Colucci's cool, I think Jim's cool, I like Rita Swope, I like everybody, I have no beef with anybody. My whole purpose is, when you were saying I thought, and maybe I misinterpreted, in that case I apologize, I thought you were referencing the sunshine and how there was a sunshine violation, and that's why I prefaced my statement with, I am the least knowledgeable in law. I'm definitely 100% medical, zero knowledge in law. I've said that from day one. And that's why I had Fred clarify. So I don't know why you just kind of personally attacked me a little bit there, pointing fingers, because I think I don't know, consult, tell me if I'm wrong. I think I'm pretty laid back and chill. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. I have no problem with that. And hey, if I'm wrong, point it out. If I'm right, point it out. I like you all.
This is the vice mayor, I'd like to be recognized.
Yes, go ahead. Are you finished, Robin?
Sure.
Yes, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I'd just like to call everyone's attention to section point 6.01, boards and committees. Member of any board or committee may be removed for any reason by a majority vote of the council. This is a section that has been cited on numerous occasions by the mayor when we elected board and committee members saying, oh, well, hey, we don't like the way it turned out, we can remove them for any reason. So at this point, this stage, this has become so divisive, I'm going to make the motion now because I have the floor to call the question.
Do we have a second?
second.
Second? It's not debatable. Mr. Riley, before we debate this, though, he's making a motion to call the question before public comment. What is the legal, and we haven't even heard from the accused, let alone the public, and I know there's people here to speak. So you're cutting off, you're basically conducting a meeting, I believe, in violation of the open public meeting laws by not letting the public speak. He can call the question after the public speaks. I don't think it's appropriate at this stage. That's my opinion, and that's how I would rule.
Okay, I'll give you a response. I think you're making it way too complicated. Before you vote on it, you have to have public input. So that's by Florida law. I wanted to make a comment too.
1 second, I have to deal with his motion.
I know, I understand that.
I'll let you make your comment next. I have
I'm
to
not
deal with
asking
his
you to
motion.
make it. I'm just pointing out, I've been waiting patiently because I never want to interject before the city council's done with their deliberation. But I think you at times make things too complicated.
I agree.
And I'm not directing it at you, I'm saying the group of you. I say it with a smile.
I agree. I have to rule on this motion, okay? It's not for me to rule on this motion, actually. We have to vote on this motion. We have a motion, we have a second by Dave Gaddis, I believe. Dave,
Sure, I'll
Dave second, or is it Jody? I didn't hear. Dave, fine. Okay, so we have a motion to call the question. We have a second by Dave. We have a recommendation from the city attorney not to do this. I do believe this would violate the law myself. It's not debatable. I will take it to a vote. If we violate the law, I told you so. You vote for it at your own peril. Call the roll, Patty. This is on to call the question, which simply means there will be no public debate on this, and we will go right into a vote.
I'm sorry, but I just thought that city attorney said we need to have public comments, so I
Yes, but
thought.
I have a
that was
motion. I'm sorry. I need to talk
I
over.
will be perfectly happy, Mayor and Vice Mayor, to leave the motion on the table, and you can take public comment, and then we'll come back to my motion.
You can withdraw the motion and then bring it back. You can't leave it on the table. If you would like to withdraw it, then that's fine. It makes it easy for us. Are you liking to withdraw? Are you willing to withdraw the motion and bring it back you can bring it back at any point?
No, I'll call the question.
You're calling the question. Okay. Let's just do this vote. I'm going to go on the record as saying this is illegal. Okay? Call the question and vote for it. Be my guest.
Can I object to that? This seems confusing to me, like, again,
Ask the city attorney.
can we just stop for a second and make
Sure.
this legal and normal and calm down?
Sure.
Right, oh,
Is this legal or not legal? That's a yes or no.
I answered the question before you vote on the issue that is at hand. You have to have, by Florida law, you have to have public comment.
So I have a vice mayor insisting that we break the law, and seconded by
I think-
yes.
and Vice Mayor maybe,
This is the problem here. I would encourage Vice Mayor Gunn to withdraw his motion so that this can go forward and that we can proceed to have the council complete its comments and then have citizens' comments, and then you can decide what you're going to do.
I asked him that, he refused to do it.
Well, I'm making a suggestion to him.
I will take the advice of the city attorney and withdraw my motion at this time.
Thank you. Any further council comments before I go to the citizens?
I guess, never mind.
No?
I never got my question answered by Dave, but that's okay.
We can't have cross questions, but ask it to the body again.
I wanted to know why he personally attacked me.
Okay, I'm just, that's,
Point of order, let's move on,
yeah,
please.
I'm gonna find that well founded. I mean, we can get into that later. We can't have that. Okay. I'm gonna move it to the citizens. Rick Schock first, Jules Chandler second.
From an outsider's perspective, but from the perspective of someone who's come to a lot of city council meetings, I'm appalled by this whole thing. I'm the vice chairman of the Parks and Rec Committee. I consider June Van Scoy a friend. I talk with her quite a bit. We don't talk about business. She's very, very clear about separating social things that we talk about and the business. and I commend her for that. I've also noticed, and I think everyone here needs to examine their hearts and their motives here. I've sat through a number of city council members, or meetings rather, where everything that went up in front of the council for a vote came out 6-1. Everybody in favor except for one person. Now that person's entitled to their own right, and that's perfectly fine. But to the outsider looking in, I wonder if that's really what's going on here. I'm not going to argue, Councilmember Swope mentioned right up front, no one's arguing with what June does with the Parks and Rec Board. But the idea of taking a volunteer and removing them from office for maybe misstating, I mean, you know, 20 years in the Navy, there's a lot of ways you can discipline people without removing them from office. So, I don't know, maybe everyone needs to go get a margarita together and get over this. But, oh my gosh, I'm appalled that we'd be looking at forcibly removing someone from office. Rather, maybe everyone here sat down with her and said, you know, you're a little out on the out of bounds line here, let's get back in. All right, you shouldn't have used that term. But if you all see that as a reason to remove somebody from office, I'm sorry, I just don't see that. But it's your choice to make, and if you make it, examine your heart, and make sure you're doing this for good reasons, remembering our First Amendment rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Chief Chandler.
First of all, Jules Chandler, 3207 Hibiscus Drive West, Bel Air Beach. This is not a personal issue. I am friends and good friends with Barb. But right is right, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. Doesn't matter who's talking, so start the timer. She could be on the committee, I don't care. And I don't think that she does a bad job, but there are some things I don't agree with. And I humbly asked the city council members to consider the ramifications of the actions of Ms. Van Scoy, I don't know how to say your name and I apologize, or any representative of Bel Air Beach, city council member or board or whatever, staff included. Members who are already on this said committee, working nicely with one another, quickly dropped out. I'm not going to get into the reasons that they did that. Immediately after the last election, Ms. Van Scoy repeatedly referred to herself as the assistant to the mayor of Bel Air Beach. She was repeatedly told no such position existed and to cease using that title, but she continued using it. She also had requested a city email address, which has never been needed or given to any member of any board at any time in the past. That's an interesting precedent. Or is it? She has cost the city money with utilizing our city attorney regarding records requests, as well as attempting to collect money from the city from that said request. She's contacted our neighboring city due to a dislike of one of their employees. You don't have to like somebody, but to call their boss to try to get them fired and seriously jeopardizing our city's relationship with Bel Air Shore, we should not want to continue. We should want to continue our valued relationship with Bel Air Shore, not hinder it with childish nonsense and personal vendettas. From the beginning, it was questioned by many residents that she was placed on the Parks and Recs board. I never felt that she or the mayor violated the sunshine laws. Okay, they live in the same house as life partners, but since it's not a legal marriage, it's fine. But is it really? There are many situations in society that are legal, but does that make them honorably acceptable? The opening up of our beautiful communities to non-residents was the big issue, not having festivals, but having the non-residents. Now we have non-residents coming in, utilizing our beaches. The papers are saying so, residents are saying so. Mr. Mayor, you said you see car after car going to the beach accesses. Now, do we know for a fact that it's from a festival? No, we don't. But this is what residents are saying. I'm not the only one that's saying this. Okay, so in closing, because I know that if I was trying to, I would get more time. But I appreciate you listening. And is this what you want as a voice of our beautiful community? Do we need this distraction? and you're setting a precedent. Thank you.
Thank you. John Hanzik.
John Hanzik, 22nd Street. I've read all of this stuff before I came to this meeting tonight, and I've heard more. And quite frankly, I'm embarrassed to be a citizen of this city for the shenanigans and the carryings on. This I will say in defense of two people since the swearing in. There seems to be a personal agenda against two people in particular, and one of them is the subject of this particular item right now. I'm frankly disgusted. We heard one side of the story from one side, we've heard one side from the other. If we're trying to resolve things and keep the peace, if you will, and work amicably with our neighbors across the street, this isn't any way to do it. June's done a good job as the chairman of Parks and Rec, yeah. But I still see everything. Has she done some wrong? I think using a title that doesn't exist, a position that doesn't exist in the city, I think that's wrong. I'm just embarrassed that 11:20 at night, we're still halfway through this session because of everything that's going on. And to echo what my shipmate Rick said, I took an oath to uphold the Constitution 6 times and was willing to take a bullet. And I really wonder sometimes if anybody's ever gone back and looked at your oath and really stopped and read it and understood what it meant. I did 6 times. At 72 and a half years old, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I'd take a bullet for this country. I understand what that oath means. I'm not saying you need to take a bullet for the city. But honest to God, go home tomorrow and read your oath. One other thing I've read many, many times and still have today. I've read my creed when they pinned my anchors on when I became a chief petty officer. No other branch of the military has a ritual for the transition into supervision like the U.S. Navy. But I'm embarrassed, and I'm frustrated, and I'm mad. Stop the personal agendas and do this business of the city of Bel Air Beach in the best interests of the Bel Air Beach residents, or step down.
Thank you, Mr. Hanzik. Anyone else? Leslie Nutero.
I wanted to counter a couple things that the mayor had brought up in his things. He mentioned 42 USC 1983, which talks about actions based upon race, color, or creed. I don't think anyone here can say that there's anything involved here in race, color, or creed. I know that's a hot thing these days, but that's not this. And also, complaints were made that people have said some unflattering things about Ms. Van Scoy. I want to read something. Above all, Ms. Van Scoy is a public official, and as such, she is subject to criticism by all citizens who should be free to express their opinions without fear of reprisal and lawsuits by that public official. So I think that the possibility of a lawsuit by Ms. Van Scoy is non-existent. Thank you.
Jim Van Scoy. I will rebut that later. By the way, I'm going to make a motion to dispense with the rules. This is the accused. She's listened to a half an hour of our discussion. She should not be limited to 3 minutes to respond. She's not a regular citizen, she's the accused. And I don't think it would be doing her they would be doing a grave injustice if you let her speak her piece fully without time limitation. Keeping in mind that we all keep our time self-limited to something reasonable. Is there an objection by the council? Continue, you have no time limit, please keep it reasonable in terms of your length.
Thank you. I want to start by saying my accomplishments and the benefits.
June, would you please speak right into the mic, because I
Okay,
can barely hear you.
I'm just speaking of the virus, I'm trying not to be too close to the mic. I want to start by saying my accomplishments and the benefits the city of Bel Air Beach has had from me being your park and rec chairman for this city. It started with the Festival by the Sea that was able to be put together and funded from outside sources and put on for all our community, for all ages. And then there was even the trunk or treat for kids with a costume parade. And let's not forget the holiday party with Santa, photos and decorating ornaments and cookies and coloring books and crowns for the kids. Again, at no cost to this city. In fact, no other Parks and Recreation Board in this city that I know of has ever been able to accomplish this with no cost to our city. It made money. It's a fact. Everything I have done for this city eclipses anything that some council members have done in 1 year. I'm not going to attack Councilwoman Swope. I'm going to give you a factual information, which I'm allowed to do. She complained about parking for the festival on our streets, having her wine and cheese group come in and complain to the council, but yet she parked her own vehicles on our city streets that day. They threatened to protest the event, but we had a parking plan in place to only park on one side of which was implemented. But 2 weeks later, they wanted to allow a citywide garage sale which blocks our streets to the point that they are impassable. Uneven enforcement of rules for this city? I think you do. I think you do. She ran, and I quote for one of her election advertisements, she will unify the city. I ask you, is she unifying the city? She has voted against every Parks Board event in the city, including the Children's Holiday Party. I have done everything I could to bring this community together by spearheading these events as a volunteer. Our events do nothing but bring positive press to this city. I have been an excellent chairwoman. The absurdity that I have to speak today in front of this council to defend myself for nothing that has to do with my position as Parks and Rec chairwoman. This city is simply unbelievable and unacceptable. In fact, it's against my First Amendment right of freedom of speech. Councilwoman Swope and the city clerk from Bel Air Shore, Barbara Clucci, have made me afraid to speak in front of this council and the city of Bel Air Shore for any other public meetings or events. They have said harsh words about me and my ladies group. So I ask you, why I have to endure all this stress and sleepless nights, harassment over the issue of the feelings of being hurt from another city's clerk, and not being able to celebrate my birthday yesterday or go to my granddaughter's softball game tonight. And Councilwoman Swope trying to defend her friend at this city's expense and to violate my constitutional right of freedom of speech. I have a right to speak as a citizen anywhere I choose, and I did. And I never portrayed myself in that conversation I had with Bel Air Shore, okay, as being a representative. In fact, I actually brought it into the light, as I'm required to do, my position, and I did so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vinsberg. Any other citizen comments? Bring it back to council.
I'm still kind of confused about this, because again, it says for removal of Park and Rec Board. And again, I don't think anything wrong has been done with the Park and Rec Board. And since it's been brought up, and Barb, you weren't here, I said that I like you, and I like June, I like everybody, so just putting that out again. But I'm not even sure why the records request was done in the first place. I don't understand the point behind that. I don't know if that was it doesn't matter, but again, if we're looking at Park and Rec Board, I see absolutely zero reason to kick her off the board. Personal issues aside, that's between you guys. But Park and Rec Board solely, which is what this says, from the Park and Rec Board. It doesn't say from anything else, doesn't say from the city, doesn't say from this hall. Park and Rec Board. If we're going to read the question, you cannot remove her from the Park and Rec Board because she hasn't done anything wrong with the Park and Rec Board. That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to rebut what Leslie Matero said. I'm amazed that you graduated first in your class, Leslie, and don't know Section 1983. I never even mentioned the words race, color, creed. That was your addition. Let me read it again. No need to put this in the record, Patty. It's there already. Every person who under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subject any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proceeding for redress. If Council Matero believes that the First Amendment right of free speech is, I'm sorry? No, it's not in the record. No, none of that says. I've already put it in there. The First Amendment right is the right they're talking about. I have case law after case law after case law. And just so you know, and everybody in the city knows, I will not be allowed to handle a case should Ms. Van Square bring it. Because I'm the mayor. She will get other counsel. If you think that this city is immune from a First Amendment lawsuit, not only do you have that, in 2 more items, we have another gentleman coming in with an allegation that we trampled his rights. He spoke earlier. We ripped out a political sign, allegedly. I know you did it to me during the election. I have one too if I want. You also didn't make me park on the streets. That's also an abridgment of free speech. This is the People's Republic of Bel Air Beach. We do what we want to do. We enforce code against who we want to enforce it with. Now we're making up sunshine rules. Yes, you absolutely said sunshine. I have it in my notes. Okay?
Point of order.
And so,
Point of order. We need to call the question.
well, you can't interrupt me for a point of order to call the question. You can wait till I'm finished and then you can call it. I would explain that.
Point
So,
of order. We don't need to attack Dave.
okay, I'm not attacking him. I'm explaining where he was wrong in his statement. So, not well founded.
You misunderstood what I said.
Okay, again, it's not debatable. I have the floor, you can rebut it. Okay? He did say about sunshine. And he said if we weren't married, this would be a sunshine act. If we were married, it wouldn't be a sunshine problem. If we were married and had 10 kids, it wouldn't be a sunshine. If we were married and served on the same board, then we'd have a problem. But we do not serve on the same board. If I cannot talk to my life partner, I don't know whose rule that is. It's surely not the state of Florida's. So if you want to remove her for bogus reasons, go ahead. If you want to remove her because you don't like the fact that she went across the street and did it, follow the vice mayor's advice. You can remove people for any reason. Perhaps next time you could remove a person who has a color that you don't like, or a religion you don't like, or a race you don't like. Do you think those things would fly? Do any of you think that? Does Leslie Otero think that? First in her class. Nobody would think this. You're going to get sued. It's my job as mayor to try and keep this city out of suit. I have said enough. You vote for this at your own peril. I have given you the rule. I have given you the law. Your city attorney should be giving you this. Okay? He should stop this right now and warn you just the way I'm warning you. You're trampling her personal rights. You're trampling it over a personal friendship by one council member who, quite frankly, hasn't supported a thing that June Van Scoy and the Parks Board has done. I'll be voting no. I suggest that each of you vote no. And if you don't, then let the chips fall where they may. Ms. Van Scoy is recording this. I'm sure she knows what to do with it. And Victor, please, this is subject to very, very important future usage. Make sure those tapes that you have are preserved.
I'd like to ask the city attorney a question. Would you please explain to me what right is being violated for Ms. Van Scoy if she is removed from her position?
According to what I've heard this evening, it would be First Amendment rights.
From what? Because I don't think she's being, I guess it's all about interpretation, because that's not the reason why. It has nothing to do with what she said across the street. So now what are we talking about?
Well, can I make a few comments? And I'll address, I think, what you're asking. One comment is in section 38-52, which is term of office, paren B says, all persons appointed to the Park and Recreation Board shall serve during such term at the sole pleasure of the city council, period. And it has other language, but that's the operative thing that governs what you do. You have the ability to remove somebody at your pleasure from that board. Having said that, what I have seen over the last, 45 minutes is you started out with the issue, which is item 20, consideration of releasing and removing June Van Scoya from the Parks and Recreation Board. That was the issue, which just mushroomed into all these different things. And, I'll give you legal advice in some way that's probably late to the party, but I hope it is applicable in the future. When you do things like that, you bring in all sorts of other issues that simply make it harder to reach a decision on the issue that's on the agenda. And, having said that, Rick made to me, a very valid point. And it's to me, a fundamental point. I hate to say it, I'm not here as the referee, I'm here as the city attorney, but at times I wonder if all of you lose sight of this. The point that he was making is that, that he didn't like the tone of the discussion and you should go get a margarita. In many respects, I agree with you on that. But the thing that you lose sight of is that the council member Swope had asked this to be put on the agenda and it to be discussed. And it is fully understandable, expected, and it's going to happen that you're going to have a messy discussion. And in this case, and in other cases, you have a messy discussion because this is a small community and it has all sorts of interrelations between the parties. And, there's all sorts of connections and relationships, and that makes it harder on a lot of things. If everybody was spread out and this was a town of 1 million people, this would, maybe be easier, maybe not. But it is fully understandable that you would have a messy discussion about this topic. And in a way, I will tell you from my perspective, I raised this 6 months ago, having these kind of messy discussions over and over again, I'll characterize it as personalities, is to me counterproductive in many ways because you're not getting to the business of the city. You're going on a tangent of some sort, and there may be merit in the tangent, but I'm just telling you, from my perspective, y'all are not at times focusing on the matter at hand, and it's 11:30 and you've still got 15 things to go through tonight. And this is an important issue. Y'all have discussed a number of important issues tonight, but I don't know that I have any great wisdom for you.
What I ask, Mr. Attorney, what I ask is, would you please explain to me how her First Amendment right is being infringed upon?
Well, let me finish what I'm going to say, and I'll get right to that in a minute. Mayor Manzo said part of his job is to keep the city out of litigation. That's a big part of my job, and in the time that I've been here, I've spent a lot of time that, in my opinion, y'all probably don't even understand how much time I've spent trying to keep the city out of litigation. Knock on wood, so far, I've been successful. And, you know, it's been a frustrating process. But I'm, in a way, I'm not going to answer your question because I'm not advising her. I'm advising y'all. Your task is not to make decisions that violate somebody's rights. And you have a code provision, which I just read, that gives you the ability, if you so choose, to make a change. And I think you've infinitely complicated it by adding all these other aspects into one decision. And that, you know, again, maybe I should have stopped after the first comment and said all that, but I'm reluctant to do that most of the time because y'all need to have the ability to have a robust discussion among yourselves about how you want to run this city. So am I going to agree with Mayor Manzo or agree with Leslie? I'm not going to agree with either one. I hope there won't be any lawsuit over anything because I hope you'll find a way to resolve the problem so there's no basis for a lawsuit. That's my hope. And that would be my suggestion to you, is find a way to solve this problem without it resulting in there being a further complication to the whole thing. How do you do that? I don't have a great answer for you tonight. I really don't.
So,
Vice Mayor, I'd like to be recognized.
I just wanted to clarify something real quick.
Vice Mayor, I have you after Robin Aki, okay?
Again, legally not good. So basically what you're saying is, like what I said, the issue is the Park and Rec Board, and we took it way beyond. So we just need to get back to the issue about the Park and Rec Board, right? Is that basically?
Yeah, and I think Rick said this, or maybe John Hanzik as well, said something along the lines of that this is the most severe penalty you could select. There's other things you could do if you want to reprimand somebody of sorts, although that's not provided for in the city code. I mean, if the unfortunate thing, and again, you're probably tired of listening to me talk, but there's been a accumulation of things, and now it's all being discussed, and it's being discussed because of this one agenda item.
So we need to get back. So we need to get back to the agenda,
You need to get back to that.
which
and
says removing from Park and Rec Board.
in the future, I would suggest to you that if there are things like this, you know, accumulation of things coming up, it's probably prudent to address them earlier, although I know in some respects they were addressed at an earlier time.
We go to Vice Mayor Glenn Gundy, it has to speak next. Vice Mayor?
Thank you very much. This, I almost rest my case right here. Look how impassioned and how divisive and how distracted this issue is again and again and again. And contrary to the city attorney's comment, we know exactly how much time they're putting into this because we look at their billable hours that's devoted to some of this stuff and the cost that's being associated with some of this stuff. So based on 3857 that you just quoted at 6.01, I motion to call the question. We're not going to solve this thing with any more debate. Let's go ahead and call the question.
Do we have a second?
Second.
No debate, vote. Patty, please call the roll for this. Calling the question, this means to cut off all further discussion, go to a vote.
Councilmember Bean,
All right, clarify this, we're going to the vote.
If you vote yes, if you vote, the motion has been seconded, there's no debate. If you vote yes, it stops any further debate, and then the next thing I will do is I'll call the question basically, and then we will vote for this. So this is only saying we're stopping debate. That's what this is, that's the motion that the Vice Mayor has made. In other words, he's saying, no more debate, time to call the question, okay? And if you vote yes, the next thing I have to do is call the question, and then you'll vote.
Yes.
Okay, so yes.
Councilmember Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
No. So we have a 6-1 that the question has now been called. I will read the question and then we will call the roll for a vote. This is a consideration of releasing and removing June Van Scoy from the Parks and Recreation Board. A vote yes means she will be removed and released from the Parks and Recreation Board. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
No.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
No. So the motion carries 4-3. Effective immediately, June Van Scoy is removed from the Parks and Recreation Board. That concludes the discussion on this topic. Okay, we moved item 15 to item 21B. So item 21, what was originally item 21, is now 21A. So we'll go into that, and then it's kind of a corollary with 21B, so we're going to do one at a time. But 21A is the consideration of emergency resolution 2020-10, an emergency resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for local government public meetings, providing for findings, providing for local government public meetings to be held using technology platforms, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for convocation. It was brought by me. The explanation is all city meetings will be held virtually, pursuant to the governor's order, I should say. We have a motion.
So moved.
Dave Gaddis is making a motion. And we have a second by Mark Bean. Dave Gaddis, you have the floor.
Sure. I went ahead and did some research. I brought basically some handouts for everyone that I'll pass out in just a second. Basically, I've researched GoToMeeting, Skype, Zoom, whatever. We can do this with the gentleman back there on the video camera being the host rather than being our film guy. I believe that we have everything that we need in this software to be able to handle these virtual meetings and also allow the public to join us. I've included the monthly and yearly cost. It's basically you employ the webinar feature of Zoom, and you can have up to 200 people, which is probably all we would ever have, to join our video conference. And if it got any bigger, we could look into connecting that to YouTube Live. I don't think that will be necessary. However, in the future, we will be coming back, provided that this vote goes through. We will one day come back, but we know that life is not going to get back to normal for a long time. That being said, I've also included hardware that I recommend that works in conjunction with Zoom and Zoom webinars that will allow us to continue holding these meetings, yet have sort of an automated camera microphone system so that our moderator or our host can handle the interviewing with messaging and then giving the mic to people that are staying at home that want to join our meeting. So that being said, for this, I know that it's on several people's minds here, and right now I just feel like we have too many people in this building.
Thank you, David, for your research, and thank you for joining me on this one. As you know, last time I was not in favor of meeting in public. Robin Hockey and I were the only two. But I think things have changed. I think there was optimism at the time, and some of the people on the council, and I give them kind of credit because I think they thought that we could do things in person. What we had here tonight should never occur. Our primary goal in our strategic plan is the safety of the community. And I feel that we let the community down tonight. Well, we let the community down in a lot of ways, but this safety is the way we primarily let it down tonight. We have put all of our important people who run this city in one room with 100 people. I can tell you, if somebody doesn't test positive, it'll be a miracle, okay? And the problem is we don't have the bench as like like some of these cities where we've got 300 people. I've got one city manager, he's got one assistant, we have one city clerk. I mean, when we lose these people, we close the doors here. I have a whole thing of statistics, I'm not going to go through them, but one that is telling, because I get this every day from the state, is that it took us 4 months, 114 days to get to the first 100,000 cases of this virus in Florida. That happened on June 22nd, 2020. In less than 2 weeks, we've racked up another 100,000. At this rate, it's going to get ugly. The hospitals are running out of ICU space. We are putting ourselves at risk of death here. I was kidding with the city manager. I mean, he's a little older than me, but we're not that far apart. We're in a higher risk group, and there's a number of people, other people that are in high risk, and I don't think that this is necessary. I know that we can do this. The other cities, Reddington Beach, Reddington Shores, St. Petersburg Beach, Bel Air Shore, Treasure Island, and the County of Pinellas all use virtual meetings. In terms of it discouraging people, actually to the contrary. Mike Twitty, our tax appraiser, was online at the Mayor's Council, and before the meeting he said the county meetings are going 6 hours long because everybody is calling in and watching them now from Zoom. So actually it's so easy to be able to do this from your living room without having to get up and go to council chambers. So I think it will help people. Also, to what David Gaddis said, if we prepare this in the event, I hope we never have to use this, but in the event that something ever befalls us, hurricane-wise or natural disaster-wise, we will have means of operating with this council no matter where any of us are. We don't have that right now. So we would be able to conduct the safety of the business of the city. So I highly recommend this. I think we're only going to do it as long as the governor's order is in place. We will come back at a future time as soon as the governor lifts that. But I am with Dave Gaddis. This isn't happening anytime soon. We have 11,000 cases the other day. I think we had 6,600 today, but it'll be up again. This thing's going in the wrong direction in Florida. And I mean, I can't even go back to New Jersey and visit people. They don't want us. So, not good. So I encourage everybody to support this. Thank you.
I really appreciate this one and 1521B, whatever it is now. Obviously, I'm the only doctor here. I've been saying this since our virtual meetings, and people kind of pushed me aside and disregarded my expert medical opinion. But I'm really happy we're doing this. I think we definitely need this and 21B. I see it every day. You think it looks bad on TV? It is really bad in person. People who don't want to wear a mask, all I gotta say is, would you rather wear a mask or a ventilator? And this is getting real. So we need to protect our citizens because we know by our survey that our mean population age is of the age of at risk. So with that being said, I totally agree and support this, that we definitely need to protect our citizens and wear face masks and social distance. And yes, you can do both, CDC recommendations, it's not one or the other. And yeah, I'm on board.
Thank you. Anybody else on council? Take it to the citizens. Any citizen comments on this? Back to council. Any final comments by the mover? And anyone else? Mark Beam? Yes, you have the last word. I'm sorry, Mark Beam, you go before David if you want.
Or comments on this one? It should have been done. I'm glad we're doing it. And Dave, thanks for getting the information.
Yeah, that's last word.
No other comments?
Yeah, I think that, just real quick, Dave, I think that as long as this works, I think we're going to be fine. I think the biggest problem was we didn't have any means to include citizens, and that was a big problem with what we were discussing in the virtual meetings. The other thing is you said this would go indefinitely or whatever. There is an end date currently, is August 1st, 2020.
Yeah, I said it will go as long as the governor's order goes out, because we don't, the governor's order right now, I believe, is August, but that's subject to change. Last time he changed it the night before, so we'll have to watch it, but right now it'll just be for July. These cases are going in the wrong direction, so.
So if we find this doesn't work, or we get, but you're confident, Dave, we're going to be okay?
Yes, people are using this all over the country, and basically I did some desk performance, and the webinar piece is what's missing from everyone's solution. In GoToMeeting versus GoToWebinars, I tested it out. In fact, I tried it again today, thinking that they were just having, maybe they were having a bad day the first time that I tried it. And so I put 2 browsers on 2 different computers, and I set up a conference and invited myself on another computer, and the performance was unusable. It was about a 30-second delay.
Okay, my only other concern is, are we giving the city manager a budget to buy equipment so they can participate? Because that's the other issue we have.
Let me explain what we're looking at right now, just so that you're aware of what I'm asking you to get into. Is that, let me find the prices in here. Okay, so currently we pay, what is it, 20 or 30 bucks a month for the meetings, is that right?
I think the cost per year is $150.
Okay. It's relatively inexpensive. Okay, what I'm asking you to do is if you bought a year's worth of this service, it's going to be roughly $550. However, what that does is that gives us the capability to do things that wouldn't work with our existing platform. So out of that yearly price he just gave us, you can back that out and then just say we're paying this much more, about $300, I'm guessing. Right now, this is the only solution that I'm aware of that will work for us because of our limited technical capabilities and our low budget. As far as the hardware goes, later on, whenever we come back, if we want 2 or 3 people want to be here and it's allowed, or everyone wants to be here, but everyone out in the audience wants to stay home, we will have the tools to do that. And like I said, it's humans. That's the hard part. As he can attest, to do a job like this, it normally takes 2 people. So for the cost of around, I don't know, $5,000 or something, you don't have to hire somebody, and you have the hardware forever. Whenever we come back to that point where we're ready to put ourselves on a video conference live.
Councilman Shirley, to answer your question, I've used this extensively to do training up in New Jersey.
I'm very familiar with some.
Okay,
No,
yeah,
I don't have any issues with this. My issue is we don't have hardware to run this in City Hall. So we can't get these 2 people on a meeting with a video. I think we have 1 camera on Lynn's computer and no speakers. He's fumbling with earphones and things like that. We need to give him a budget to go buy some equipment so they can participate. Patty as well. She can't be on a telephone. We've got to give them
Correct.
the budget to do this.
So let me explain. My recommendation would be is that we post the meeting, give the web address, and we don't open City Hall. These 2 should be at home, working on their home computer, and they just join the conference as participants. And the host, what this young man will be doing is actually firing up the meeting and giving us the web address that we used to log in with, and then he manages people that want to join it and enter their comments. And it's not one of those out of control things. I went through all of the bells and whistles. Zoom keeps getting hacked, well, it's because people don't turn their stuff off. They don't turn off options that prevent that from happening. And it's all very easy to do, and I think this is our only solution.
The other thing I'll bring up to the city, and Lynn Reeves is aware of this because we made him aware, in fact, I know June made you aware of this. There's grant money available in FEMA grants. I believe you've already set this up, and because we're under states of emergency, any monies that we spend to deal with this emergency are theoretically reimbursable. So whatever we spend, and whatever we have to spend, it's going to be far less than if people start getting sick in the city, what the cost to the city can be. Because again, as I said earlier, I'm about trying to save the city from lawsuits. I don't think that the release in our front yard here is going to cut it. So what I'm saying is basically keep track of whatever you spend and then submit it to the FEMA folks, or I don't know who's handling this, but I think it's FEMA, for reimbursement, because this is done directly in our situation to deal with this disaster. I mean, but it's a great thing to have anyway. So it will allow, as Gad said, everybody in the city to participate in it.
Dave and I are going to have a little more conversation, because I've spoken to LogTech, and there's some, with that additional equipment. Zoom, I'm sure we can work this out rather quickly. It's just the equipment that the communications committee brought. I had a discussion with LogTech, and you and I just need to get a
So you'll make sure he gets the equipment, and there's not, and we don't need to give you money, the budget's there for this sort of stuff. I mean, in worst case, I see you two each getting a laptop and taking it home that has the camera built in and the speakers built in. I mean, and what is that, a couple $1,000, Dave? I mean,
Yeah, but that's not going to happen tomorrow. It's, we have to purchase them and do
you
it.
just need them by the next meeting, right?
Well, that's the 13th.
What I would recommend is if we decide to do this, I would recommend that we do a practice run, one session, where we go ahead and announce we're having a public meeting, but it's just a practice meeting, just to make sure we all understand what we're doing, and we can talk about it all together if anybody's having any problems, so that when we have the real meeting, we're ready to go.
I have a question I'm sorry, are you done?
Go ahead.
I have a question for our city attorney. Is there any legal issues with any of this type of setup going on with the city clerk being at home, or the city manager? I just want to make sure we're not crossing any legal line with that.
Due to the executive orders that have been put in place and then extended several different times, you're fine to do this. At some point, hopefully soon, those will stop. But as of now, you're able to do that. You're able to use the technology to have these meetings. And the meetings of the boards and the committees.
All meetings, all city meetings. The
Yes,
city
sir.
hall is not.
All public meetings.
That's it. Okay, do you have any other council questions or comments before I call the question? Okay, so this is consideration of this item 21A, consideration of emergency resolution 2020-10, an emergency resolution for the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, providing for local government public meetings, providing for findings, providing for local government public meetings to be held using technology platforms, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. A yes vote means that we will hold our meetings virtually until such time that the governor's order expires. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. So the budget meetings and all other meetings at this point for the month of July are held, I believe, Fred, if I'm not mistaken, is it August 1st that August 1st it technically expires, but we'll have to watch the Tallahassee to see what the governor does. I don't have any inside information on that. The county didn't have inside information last time until the last minute, but 100,000 cases a day, it'll be extended, is my guess. Okay, so now item 21B is what used to be item 15. And this is consideration of an emergency order, 01-2020, an emergency order of the City Council of the City of Delaware Beach, Florida, setting indoor public safety requirements, mandating that individuals wear a mask covering in public indoor places, providing for findings, providing for definitions, providing for mandatory requirements and prohibitions, providing for penalties and enforcement, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. The description is this is the public safety requirements and face masks for indoor places. Motion was suggested by the city manager. I'll ask for a motion.
Second.
Joe Shirley?
That was me.
Oh, no, okay. All right, being your first.
Anybody have a comment?
Oh, you have the floor. Yes.
I'm just relinquishing.
Oh, okay.
Well, since I second, I'll go. I obviously know a lot about this. As I've already said, it's very important to wear a face mask, not only to protect me, but to protect you. And just an FYI, I saw everybody doing it and still doing it. You do not need to remove your mask in order to talk. You guys heard everything I've said. I've never touched my mask, taken it off, so you don't have to remove your mask to talk at any time, even at the microphone. Just FYI, but yes. Thank you, Lynn, for putting this in.
I just want to say the city managers, I had consultation with the city manager once and the city attorney actually, once the county gave this option, well, it wasn't an option, they gave the mandate that all businesses in the county that you had to have masks for all businesses. And then we kind of went back and forth, and ultimately I asked Lynn Reeves, I said, it's your decision, but my suggestion was we do what the county is doing. That's always what Fred Riley recommends, is that if the county's doing it, if they recommend it for businesses, if the county recommends it, the county recommends this for city halls, but we have to make our own decision. I think if you can go into a, auto parts store and you have to have a mask, if we have 100 people in our room here, you need a mask. It's real simple. I don't know if they're perfectly safe at keeping away the virus. I don't think they're hurting. So it's an easy one. Let's vote yes and keep our employees safe. There's not going to be a lot of other people in City Hall, but let's keep the employees safe. We can't afford to lose them right now.
If Vice Mayor would like to be recognized.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Gunn.
Okay, yeah, we just took care of the virtual meeting, so the reason why I was asking to reorder these things the way we did was because what we are now talking about is city employees, right? Because our meeting will be virtual, so you have now been sitting in a meeting for 6 hours wearing your mask, and you've made not less than 2 comments about how you couldn't see or adjust your glasses. So my question is, regarding the unexpected consequences, do you expect the city employees to wear their masks in the office all day long if they can maintain social distancing or be separated by sneeze shields or whatever? And I guess I need some input from the city manager. I mean, we're talking about the safety of our employees. Do you have some input into this?
Can I add input as the doctor on this council? But
No,
first, Lynn.
Let me have Lynn do it first and then come right back to you.
Okay.
Okay? Go ahead, Lynn Reeves. He's asking you the question.
Yeah. Vice Mayor, what we've done since all this started, we've put up the shield so the public doesn't have access to us. If we have a meeting with the public, we go into the conference room, we put on our mask. We haven't put on masks inside the offices. And for the most case, unless Patty says something otherwise, I don't think that's necessary at this point, because we've got the block from the public. That's just my opinion. And most of us are in our offices most of the day unless we have contact with someone or someone comes in to meet with us. Like today, I had a couple of residents come in, and so I met them in the conference room. I had a mask on, they had a mask on. So, but whatever you direct us to do, we'll do.
What's your preference? I
I'm
mean, it seems,
getting the sense that you're applying a little personal responsibility and common sense to this thing. If you are interacting closely or can't maintain social distancing, you're practicing good hygiene and wearing a mask. Is that correct?
I didn't
he
catch.
said basically your personal responsibility on it.
We're, you know, when we're meeting with the public, yes, we're wearing a mask, we're in the office, we're keeping our distance, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, but we aren't wearing a mask all day long, I will tell you that.
I think if you're sitting in your office by yourself, working, it's unnecessary. It's your choice, obviously, but it's not required. If anyone comes to this building, they should wear them. I think it would be kind of a double standard if they're meeting with somebody and we're not wearing them, you know, employees. So I think it has to be both ways on a meeting. But if you're in your office, I mean, that's your, to me, that's your call, you know.
I would,
Well, my concern is, again, the unexpected consequences. I'm reading through this thing, and it's mandating that individuals wear a face mask coverage in public indoor places. Now, to me, it doesn't sound like there's any room there for common sense or public. I think we're being overly prescriptive in this thing, and allow the city manager to manage his employees and use some personal discretion here and responsibility and common sense.
City manager, you already require masks for people coming to the building. I mean, in a
Yes.
state of emergency, the city manager can make emergency declarations. He's in charge of this building. He's made the decision after consultation with council, and he included me in. He didn't have to, okay? We just exchanged some ideas like we like to do sometimes, and he said, I'm gonna do it. And I'm like, well, that's great. So, I mean, if you work in an auto parts store all day, you gotta wear your mask, okay? Every public place right now is mandated in the county. If we do less than that, well, then I don't know, are we really doing everything we can to protect the public? I think you can't be in public meetings not wearing a mask.
No, I think what the vice mayor is asking, if I understand it, he's asking if the council's gonna give some latitude in this resolution for the city staff, as long as they're within the office.
Well, I think it's, do we even need the resolution?
Exactly.
Because we have, now you've just eliminated everyone from the building, and we're even talking about staff being at home on these calls and whatnot. So do we even need the resolution? Are we imposing something we can't? The only public building in Bel Air Beach is right here.
Right.
Bingo, you're right on, that's what I'm saying.
And why are we,
Resolution.
And we're basically doing a redundant rule.
Well, that, I will tell you, that was my position, that we were, and I had that discussion with the mayor and the city attorney, and I said, hey, the county's already done this.
Exactly.
And if we support the county's ordinance, then that's when I posted that. But in discussing with Fred, and Fred chimed in.
And by reversing the order of these agenda items, that we basically eliminated the need for this.
I agree with
I agree. Go ahead, I'd like to speak, I haven't had first speaking. I agree that this is absolutely unneeded at the present time. We're going to virtual meetings. Lynn and the office staff are in here all day long. They can wear masks if they want. If they're in their own offices, they don't have to. Right now, I mean, you have to take off your mask every now and then. It's been on for 6-7 hours. And unlike, Councilmember Dr. Aki, I don't wear one all day long. So, I mean, this is like been long enough. So you have to take it off every now and then just to breathe. I am still 6 feet apart from the nearest person to me. So, I mean, we've talked extensively about this when we don't need to. We've already decided virtual meetings, so.
Fred Raleigh.
The Pinellas County ordinance or special order, emergency order accepts government municipalities and government entities and basically allow them to make their own rules. So what this whatever this is, emergency order does is imposes the same standard on the government building as the county imposes on everywhere else. Having said that, the requirement is that somebody put on a mask. If they don't have a mask on, they only get cited if they refuse to put one on after being asked. So, I mean, to me, it's a two-step process. It's a reasonable thing, and you may, by doing the virtual meetings, have minimized the exposure for the future, but you're taking, if you pass this, you're taking every step you could reasonably take to try and eliminate the potential for people to get infected during their visit to City Hall. So I think it's a good measure.
I agree with Fred, and in my medical opinion, 6 feet away does not negate masks. You have to do both in order to reduce your risk. But it's not an issue, well, it actually is an issue, because, if you want to say, well, we already are in a public building, well, for Pinellas County, and that the rule already applies, there's several people in this room that haven't had masks on the whole meeting, some in the audience, some up here, so obviously we're not following the rules. But by setting this, we are saying that Bel Air Beach is officially requiring a face mask, which I would think would protect us. And obviously, if Patty's in her office and Lynn's in his office, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you're out together discussing something, you should wear a mask. If you have a meeting, obviously. I mean, it is common sense, but I'm looking around town and I'm dealing with this at the hospital, and trust me, common sense is not being used. So I think, yes, it might be a little redundant, but my feeling is that we need to have a record, like you said, that we've done everything, because if somebody that came in here from this meeting now is positive and blames it on us, guess what we didn't have? So I'm just saying, protection, just like the mask, it doesn't hurt you to have an extra layer of protection.
So to adhere to this, you guys are gonna wear your mask all day? Is that what I'm understanding? Because that's what this says. If you're in this building, you're gonna have your mask on all day. Is that what we're agreeing to, Patty?
Fred, is that what it really says, or is there a
It says
latitude?
if you're in a public, yes, what we're passing is that if you're in this building, you have to have a mask on.
If Vice Mayor, I'd like to be recognized.
Go ahead.
I would propose an amendment to 21, and that is just to comply with the county policies with regards to wearing a mask in public buildings and city halls.
The county policy exempts City Hall. So I'll run your amendment, but this is what happened last week with myself and the mayor, the city manager and the city attorney. The city manager said to me, we're going to follow the county. And I said, the county tells you to make the decision. So we were going in this circle. We have to make a decision. They recommend that we follow their edict, which is all public buildings. And yes, everybody else in every other public building has to wear the mask. I don't think anybody's going to turn one of our employees in if they're in their office and they don't have their mask on. Close the door, nobody will know what you're doing. But if you're meeting with the public and you're requiring them to have a mask, then you got to have a mask. I mean, we got to do what we're asking everyone else to do. The county does not tell us what to do. They give us the option. So we can just say, do what we want to do, nothing. We don't have to do anything and just make them recommend it, but although right now they're required. And I guess what Lynn is really asking for is the council to basically sanction what he's been doing all along, which is saying, if you come in this building for the protection of everyone, I want masks. That's what this is doing, and we're using the county ordinance as the guideline.
So on
And I guess that's what I'm saying, is give him the discretion to work with his employees, exercise a little personal responsibility, common sense and good hygiene, rather than being overly prescriptive and say, anytime you're in the building, you gotta have a mask on.
That's not what every other building in Pinellas County has to do, other than courthouses and city halls.
Restaurants.
And schools, yeah.
So page 3, item 2E specifically says that government entities are encouraged to develop their own procedure, right? So it doesn't mean that you adopt what the county's already put in place. You have your own procedure in place. I think we're complicating it again with a lot of, whatever it is you want to do, Lynn, it's up to you, but by the way I see it, by saying this is what we're adopting, it still kind of leaves it open-ended. It still doesn't say this is exactly what we're adopting. It doesn't say that I am, well.
Yeah, it states that what we're really doing, in my mind, is reaffirming that we support what the county ordinance says. And that's all we're doing. The staff, if they have to meet with the public or anything of that nature, they're wearing masks. That's unless they're outside, could be different there, but some of them do.
Only inside a public building, outside.
Yeah. But to say we gotta wear this mask 8.5 hours a day, well, I'm saying in our office, or, if we're having a whatever, but,
Lynn, ultimately, this is your building.
yeah, that's what we're,
You manage this building. Are you 100% satisfied with the way that this ordinance is written?
yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Any other council comments? Citizen, I'm sorry. I don't, we have to call the citizens first. Citizen comments. No citizen comments, thank you. Back to council for last words. Ready for the question? So it's item 15, which is now item 21B. Consideration of emergency ordinance 01-2020, emergency order of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, setting indoor public safety requirements, mandating that individuals wear a mask covering in public indoor places, providing for findings, providing for definitions, providing for mandatory requirements and prohibitions, providing for penalties and enforcement, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. A yes vote means that the mask ordinance goes into place immediately. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
No.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
No,
Mayor Manto.
Aye. So it passes 5-2, and the mask ordinance is in effect. We're now 12 midnight. We're the next day. Congratulations. The longest council meeting in history. And we're not done. So we go to item, does anybody need a break? And then
I just want to get through this
pushes
agenda.
through.
Just
Okay.
keep going.
All right, until we drop. 22, this is a long one. Consideration of resolution 2020-11, resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, relating to section 86-65, political signs, code of ordinances, providing for findings, providing for the temporary suspension of enforcement of section 86-65, code of ordinances, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. The motion was brought by me. It was not brought in the form that I wanted. I will speak about that later, but leave it just the way it is right now. We will probably have to amend it. To temporary, the idea behind this is to temporarily suspend political sign enforcement for further consideration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second was who?
Me.
Dave, do you want to yield to me? I have the information that you might want on this.
You know what, I'm just gonna give a comment and then you can have it. Basically, I don't like the fact that we have to do this. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to do it anyway. All I can say is it was nice seeing these pretty green lawns, not all cluttered up, but it looks like that's all about to end. So, here we go.
My turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the reason why we're here, if you all recall, back to the, I'm not going to go through too much history, it's late, but a year ago, when we had the Paul Marino debates, one of the comments I made was our sign ordinance is unconstitutional. And it's the full sign ordinance, not just the political signs piece. We suspended enforcement. There was an issue, I believe, with a citizen, I'm not gonna say his name, he had gigantic banners on his house, I think he had multiple ones. I remember looking Lynn Reeves in the eye, and they're one of these things we were talking about, should we enforce it? I said, I don't recommend doing that. I'm not even sure if we had a city attorney at the time, but I said, don't do that, because we have a problem with this. We do have a problem with it, okay? And what happened was, I'm not gonna go, Fred, stop me if I go into any legal that you don't want me to go into. I think everybody on council got a letter from an individual, a man was here earlier today. Code served him with notice to remove a political sign. It was because it was not up by 45 days of the election. And he's an attorney and he understands the law, and essentially he's saying, you can't do that to me. I agree with him. I agree with him 100%. This law should have been changed 4 years ago. Mr. Riley, what changed from what I had to what you had, I'm not going to go through all the details because it's so late. We need to suspend enforcement of the entire ordinance, not just the political signs piece. The rest of it's unconstitutional too. Okay? Our ordinance is exclusionary. It only permits the signs that the ordinance says you can put up. So it talks about open house signs, for sale signs, for rent signs, different signs that are appropriate, political signs of which we're discussing here. I know a few things it doesn't permit. It doesn't permit me my freedom of speech. Go Packers, I can't put that up. Jesus is the Lord, I can't put that up because it doesn't have any provision for a religious sign. And ultimately, I want to say Bel Air Beach stinks. Not that I believe that, but Bel Air Beach stinks. I can't put that up either. We prohibit too much speech, which is protected by the First Amendment. This law is the same one we were discussing Ms. Van Scoy. I'm not going to bother to read it again in the record. It is the exact same law. The action by city manager here, pulling out that sign, or forcing that sign to come out, is the impetus, if this guy's talking about his lawsuit, to bring that 1983 suit. And you will lose. You will lose badly. You can't say 45 days. There were people when I was campaigning last year that had Trump 2020 signs in the front yard. We didn't enforce this. Trump hadn't even declared as a candidate when I was running, and we had people have banners, signs because they contributed, I guess. So you're going to be able to put this stuff up. I know we value our aesthetics, and we're not powerless, okay? We don't have to permit hundreds of signs. We don't have to permit billboards. We don't have to permit flashing signs and blinking neon and all of this stuff. But the typical, what I call a campaign sign, a little square stuck in the ground, pretty much anything goes. And I know we don't like it, but the Supreme Court of the United States does like it. We're in violation, in my opinion. We need to change it immediately. This needs to be amended that we suspend enforcement of the entire law. I'm not sure about the advertising portion of this. We have advertising restrictions on signs. That may or may not be legal. By the way, this opinion of mine was not shared by Paul Marino, but it was shared by his assistant, Jacqueline Spoto Bercher. She said that. She agreed with me, even though he didn't. So I know you understand this. I think it has to be, you just have to amend this and take it off for everything right now until you can have a chance to redraft it in light of Gilbert, I think it's Gilbert v. Arizona or whatever. I don't even remember at this point. I sent you the case, I believe, or I told you the case. So that's my point. Need to get away from this thing immediately. This man's given us a break by not suing us. I hope that's the way it ends.
My only, I guess this whole issue about he was cited is that, I mean, I see political signs all up and down my street and nobody's ever been cited. So that's why I was so confused on like, why was he cited for his sign, but there's my neighbors and it doesn't matter, I don't care who's on the sign, but I don't think it's fair that one person got a citation, but these 10 others didn't. And why it's not equal. I'm more of a, if you're gonna apply it to one, you apply to all. And that's what bothers me.
I'll tell you what happened. A couple months ago, from a resident, or a month and a half ago, I got a complaint. I called Fred and asked him to look at the sign ordinance because I got a complaint about a political sign in your neighborhood, actually. And when he came back, what I understood him to tell me was that if it's a political sign, it's 45 days, it's aesthetics. So we kind of tried to avoid it, and guess what happened? Somebody else complained about vertical signs. So we went to a few homes, we told the people, I told Mr. Levins, I said, hey, we got a complaint about these signs, I'm just telling you. I didn't tell him to take his sign down or anything. I just told him that this is what our ordinance says, and he chose, I think, not to take it down.
Put another one up.
Oh, yeah, now I remember. Yeah. So, there again, we had a complaint, and they're citing our ordinance, and I think there was a mixed message in.
But shouldn't the code enforcement officer go around
Well, he
and?
wasn't here that day.
Okay.
And people get very upset if you don't take care of business. And sometimes I have to go take care of business, sometimes Laura has to go take care of business. It's just like finding a short-term rental, If we don't do it immediately, guess what's gonna happen?
Well, I understand that, but then the next day when he was on, why did they go around and cite everybody else? My whole thing, it's not fair to tell him, but then not tell somebody 3 blocks away. That's not fair. And if, they start to wonder is because this person doesn't like my candidate, it has nothing to do with that. It doesn't matter who you have in your front. If it's not allowed, it's not allowed.
Right. So that's what happened.
I've also noticed certain people, I think, are a little more resistant to following the code, and I think code enforcement takes a step back because of their resistance to follow it. Someone right in your neighborhood on a hard corner I can think of that would be tough for them to talk to, so I think that it plays a part of it too. They're not gonna, it doesn't matter what the code is, and they don't care about citations, and they don't care about, so you just get some of that too.
I would like to, I'm sorry, then you're not done.
Yeah, but
I'd like to ask our city attorney a question. Since Mayor Manzo stated that he wants to make this resolution encompass all signs, would I need to recuse myself from this entire discussion because in my profession, we do use signs, and I don't want anybody thinking that I'm voting for something because it benefits me in any way. So do I need to recuse myself from this entire discussion?
Because she might put a 4x6 real estate sign up because now we don't have a code that, just like the one I bought.
I won't use flashing ones, but yeah, she is correct. I would probably go that route in a heartbeat.
If someone had to lease their house,
I
I'm
don't
not
know,
worried
I
about
might
that.
get in trouble with Dr. Rocky, but this is based on political signs. And I may have misinterpreted something in what I was supposed to be doing. My understanding was that political signs were the issue because of the gentleman that came before and contacted both Lynn and myself. That's why I wrote the resolution. That's not correct?
I don't know what you got from Patty Gentry, but here's what I wrote, because I'm the one who knows this, and by the way, the case is Reed versus Town of Gifford, Arizona. My resolution was resolution to temporarily suspend enforcement of the Bel Beach sign ordinance. I understand that political signs generated this complaint, but I don't have a lot to read. It's one sentence. It shall be unlawful to erect or maintain billboards, posters, or other advertising signs or similar structures in the city, except as provided in this chapter. Except. So they're all excluded unless the city gives you the right. Problem is, the city doesn't have that right to give. That's the U.S. Constitution. So I'm not so sure on the advertising signage piece. If you want to say, leave the advertising piece alone, because I know, I've read this case, I know that where you're going to ultimately suggest to us is that we can restrict advertising. We're not going to put a billboard saying open house. We're not going to allow that, okay? And we have the rights to do that. But a religious sign, next week, I've seen religious signs. I've seen other signs. I've seen my kid is the class speaker of, Whoosy Watt High School. This stuff is all permissible. It's all permissible. So I don't want next week to be here again because somebody pulled down a sign that says Clapton is God or something, I just don't want to see it. So It's the whole sign ordinance is garbage. It's really no good. I think some of the restrictions are good, neon signs and all of this kind of stuff. I think that's all good. So if you want to go through and carve out what you want to exclude, but I just don't think we can just deal with political signs tonight, because he gets a call tomorrow. I mean, I know of houses that they got these things. My kid was going to such and such high school. I'm going, okay, well, you can pull that out of the ground? He has the right to put that in his front yard. I know it doesn't look good, Dave. I'm with you. But we can't legislate this. We're not a condo association. We're not a deeded community. We're public. These people own that property without restriction. I think. I mean, you're going to give us the final determination. You can speak, or you just?
I was just going to mention something, Davis, that we are deeded. We are deeded. Our subdivision, our island is deeded.
We have deed restrictions. They ain't got the signage.
I don't know if they do or don't, but we've got the deeds.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's something I think the city attorney.
So, just can we, just question, can we move forward with this, as it's presented, and then let's tackle the political signs now, and then tackle the rest of the sign ordinance at the next meeting or something like that, just to move it along, and this work has been done, and let's get this done, and then maybe you can.
I have no problem with that, Councilwoman, as long as we give the instruction. I mean, we're doing this publicly, but please do not enforce religious signs and go Packers and all this kind of stuff. If you enforce that, we're going to be right back here. And this guy gave us a break. The next guy may not give us a break. So
I don't think we've ever enforced religious or, to my knowledge, or Packer signs or St. Louis Cardinal signs.
I don't have either, but I have Packers.
We've never done that.
Okay.
So, you know.
This wouldn't be a good time to start. So I think we can pass it the way it is. But we're going to have to change this. I mean, we're going to have to get on this. This law, the case, the operative case was passed 4 years ago. Okay, and this is what I was talking about last year when people picked on me for picking on the former attorney. This thing was decided June 18, 2015. The city should have been all over that by July. Okay, you got to watch what the Supreme Court does. So, but we can pass it the way it is, and I hope that'll help you with your negotiation. I think this gentleman said stop it. He did say the ordinance, so I mean, you might have to make a quick adjustment if this doesn't satisfy him. But you're negotiating that, and I'm going to talk about it.
Let me comment on that. He called me, I spoke to him twice. He was exceptionally professional. He was exceptionally helpful and sent me an email with all sorts of material. And he made the comment to me that this, the city council addressing this and would be the much preferable solution rather than him filing a federal lawsuit. And that's where him and I left it.
Any other council comments before I open it up to the citizens, which are dwindling rapidly? Citizen comments? Yes, sir.
I just want to reiterate again that you have to be cautious about just some of the comments that I heard about, the Packers and this, that. You can't classify any of this speech at all. So you can't say, well, we're not going to say no Catholic, no Jewish, no this, no that, no race. You can't just qualify that, because that, in essence, is what you're saying is, you're trying to, what I'm hearing is that you're trying to say that you're going to condone certain types of messages and not others. It's got to be wide open. And anybody who has something to say, they should be able to say it. It's your manager said, nobody ever enforces about the Packers or about the religion or about, it can't be just about this and about that. It's, if I have a message to put out, I'm going to put it out. And you can't legislate and say, and it's not going to hold up.
I know that as examples. I just was showing the shortcomings of our law. I just used 3 examples. I could have used 100 examples. You can't, pretty much, as long as it's not obscene,
absolutely,
pretty much can put it out there.
And I think what your ordinance is, in my opinion, I think that you, and I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV, but legislating stuff about commercial signage, that's your purview. I mean, you can do that all you want, okay? But when somebody has a a political issue or some other life issue that they want to express their message, that should be it. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thanks for hanging in with us. Anyone else? Sheriff's fanning himself. Why is it so hot? You also, the air's off? Yeah. People normally aren't here till 12:30? I thought we worked all night. Any other, there's no other council comments? So we're going to pass this then, we'll call it the way it's written with the kind of off the record suggestion, Mr. Reeves, that you not enforce this, particularly for what the gentleman just said, freedom of speech issues. I think you're still okay with, and I'm saying this, I'm not your city attorney, but I think you're still okay with the advertising restriction. So we're not going to have 50-foot wide open house signs. To answer Councilwoman Swope's question, I just sat through the ethics course and they said if it benefits the whole community and not yourself personally, you're okay to vote on it. That's the way I learned it. I don't know how you interpret it, Fred.
Well,
Yeah,
you're doing nothing that relates to the signs that she would put up, so there is no conflict.
It's not for her anyway, it's for everybody in the city.
Well, she asked about her, so there's no conflict for you to vote on this issue.
Okay, thank you. That's
So
what
there's-
was your opinion.
If there's no other questions, then let's call it, if there's no other comments, we'll call the question. Consideration of Resolution 2020-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, relating to Section 86-65 political signs, code of ordinances, providing for findings, providing for the temporary suspension of enforcement of Section 86-65 code of ordinances, providing for severability, providing for applicability and conflicts, providing for an effective date, providing for a sunset date, and providing for codification. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll, call the vote.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manto.
Aye. So it passes 7-0, and we'll immediately suspend this. Fred, Riley, would you please let us know, if you just let me know, if you would, I don't care if you let everybody know, just how these things are progressing with Mr. A, make sure everything is satisfactory, and that we can make sure we work ourselves out of that lawsuit.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, we move into item 23. Authorization to enter into an agreement with Duke Energy for undergrounding of the utilities along 22nd Street between Bay Shore Drive and Gulf Boulevard. Funding is paid for by the residents of the BEI project. This is project area. This was brought by city manager because there's nothing else here. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dave Gaddis, motion. Second?
Second.
Second, Maura Bean. Dave Gaddis.
Aye.
Call the question.
That's my comment. The background is, just quickly, this is, we're getting a credit from Duke for $73,926.27, and the additional cost is $46,884.41. 65.2% approval rate when we redid the petitions. I've got them in the file, so this is just authorizing me to make payment to Duke Energy.
My only question was, what about the other lines besides Duke? Should they also be included with this?
There is
There's no other service lines? Okay.
No, this is going to go underground along 22nd Street and Broadway.
The question I have is, so now we're going to put a meter on a pumping station and charge,
They have a meter.
charge the county for us putting the line in?
They have a meter there already. Yeah.
But I mean.
This is to get electricity to Councilmember Bean's house. That's it.
Has to recuse himself.
I have to report to Doc Ward, he wants to know.
Okay.
That's what I have to do.
Anybody else on council have any comments? Citizens? I'm getting tired. Citizens? No comments? Back to council. Last word, Dave Gaddis.
It's just part of the project. Let's get it done.
Close the books on this one.
Dave Gaddis, any other comments? Okay, thanks. So this is, the question is to authorize and enter into an agreement with Duke Energy for undergrounding of the utilities along 22nd Street between Bay Shore Drive and Gulf Boulevard. A vote yes will make us enter into that agreement and complete this project. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
Aye. Passes 7-0. City Manager, you're authorized to move forward with this, okay? Item 24, authorize city manager to execute a purchase order for asphalt overlay and patching services. The descriptions came from the city manager. Milling and replacement of asphalt on Louisa Donato, Alida Drives, and 22nd Street. Hopefully we'll do it after we dig up the roads. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Dave Gaddis and Marby?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just to, this is one part of the project. We are also going to be doing curbs, but we aren't going to be able to authorize that contract until October 1st because we need some additional funding that's proposed in the budget to be able to do the curbs in that area. This is off the City of Tampa contract, and I did said at each one's if you want to read the book, you're welcome to. Their roadway contract, and it's going to be 1-inch milling, replacement of 1-inch asphalt. And we have plenty of funding in this year's budget for this, and there'll be some excess left that we can work on some other streets in the next fiscal year. So.
We're latching onto that contract, is that why we're not bidding this? Is that how this works? I remember reading this in the purchase records rules here, so that because they bid it, make me understand this, because they bid it, we're able to take the benefits of their bid and not have to competitive bid ourselves, is that the rule? Okay.
Well, then I have a couple of questions. As far as the underlying condition of the roadway, has the company done any core borings to verify that the base is in good condition?
We didn't ask anyone to do that. I mean, we can do that outside of this contract.
Because just an inch, it's just basically, we had some areas that were ripped up by the county.
Oh, no, in that area, we're gonna redo something there.
In front of my house and actually going north, that was ripped up. Do some sewer repair and gas line repair. So I don't know what the base is like in a few areas. That's all over the island. So
Well, we can do some bores, but this contract is just for the pavement portion. If there's additional work to be done, it would be at $100 a ton.
Didn't that include holes?
Yeah,
Passing holes?
yeah. No, they're gonna mill the top off, smooth it out, and then they're gonna come back and repave the streets.
Right, well, let's talk about the deep ones.
Yeah, that, it'll look like, if you went to First Street or Second Street, that's what it's gonna look like when it's finished. But what I'm saying is, we're gonna delay this a little bit, because I wanna do the curb work first. And we don't have enough money to do the curb work we need to do.
We got some drainage issues on the end of the Louisa.
Yeah. Part of that
That's
is
where
with
that cul-de-sac was enlarged and the curb was filled with asphalt.
Right.
So that's
We'll look at that a little further.
my questioning going forward to see what the sub-base of the roadway is before you do the work and we kind of.
Yeah, we can do some tours, that's not a problem.
Any other council comments? Citizen comments? Back to council. Final words. Gaddis, you moved it. So the question before us is to authorize the city manager to execute a purchase order for asphalt overlay and patching services. A yes vote will authorize him to move into that contract. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
Aye. So it passes 7-0. City Manager, please come forward. Item 25, put on by the City Manager, authorize the City Manager to execute an extension of the Code Enforcement Special Master Memorandum of Understanding. This would be a 2-year extension of the MOU, Memo of Understanding, with Susan Moore, Attorney Susan Moore, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Jody Shirley makes a motion. Second?
Second.
Reed Swope makes a second. Jody Shirley.
Yes, I mean, it's clear this is just a extension of the existing contract. It's worked for us in the past. I don't see any need to change. Do you agree, Lynn?
Yes, I would agree, and she isn't changing her fees, so that's a good thing for us. We have, I think we had one modification in the contract that Fred added for mediation, and Attorney Moore is fine with this. And she's done a good job for us as the magistrate for code enforcement hearings.
I guess maybe I saw her on a bad day because I walked out totally unimpressed. There was a person here, pled an issue of law. She said that she didn't have access to a computer. She couldn't look up the law. She could have just walked across the hall and looked up the law, or walked outside and got a cell phone connection. She made a ruling. She could have reserved on the ruling. She could have got back for a day. She could have even taken 15 minutes off and found the law, but she didn't do it. I didn't like the way she treated the litigant. I didn't think it was a fair hearing, okay? But unfortunately, the amount of hoops you have to jump through to kind of appeal this stuff, it just doesn't make it financially worthwhile. So I couldn't support, I saw one day, so I'm not gonna come to these things regularly. I don't know if it was a bad day or not. Maybe she's fabulous. I don't have enough to go by. I can't support based on the one day that I saw. I would say extend the contract, but let's see what else is out there. That would be my opinion. That was unimpressive that day that I was here. And I'm not gonna mention the name of the case. Maybe there's other ones, maybe I have to listen to the tapes, but it's 12:30 at night, so.
Well, we haven't had, she's been good at following the codes, and most of her hearings, for the most part, are short-term rentals and things of that nature, and she's been steadfast in making sure those are enforced, so. And I will tell you, in the past, we struggled with finding magistrates, and the fees were, I'll give you one, the Board of Adjustment, we had a Board of Adjustment fee that was almost $1,000 for someone to have a hearing. So, from my perspective, she's done a good job, and, she's only used for code hearings when we need to.
And you've seen more hearings than me, but I'm just saying that the one I saw was bad. It was real bad. Any other comments and comments? Citizen comments? Back to council? So Shirley, you moved it, yeah, Gloucester.
Just move the vote, we're good.
Okay. So this is a motion before us to authorize the city manager to execute an extension of the Code Enforcement Special Master Memorandum of Understanding. It's a 2-year extension of Memorandum of Understanding with Attorney Susan Moore. And a yes vote will extend that Memorandum of Understanding. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Bean,
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis,
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley,
Aye.
Councilmember Swope,
Aye.
Councilmember Aki,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn,
Aye.
Mayor Manta.
Nay. So it passes 6-1. And city manager, you please execute that extension. Okay, item 26, consideration of selecting council members as voting delegate, alternate voting delegate 1, alternate voting delegate 2 for the Barrier Islands Governmental Council, the Big C. This comes up from the city managers to nominate and elect voting delegates. We're going to just take nominations, not motion. Well, we need a motion first. Somebody motion in.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, so now it's before us. Do we have nominations?
Who attends a big C? Can I
I
ask
do as
about
mayor. Traditionally, they have asked for the mayors to be the representative and representatives in 11 of the 12 meetings. I enjoy doing it. I'll continue if you want me to. If not, someone else can do it. Go.
I nominate Mayor Manzo.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Madam Clerk, will you please call, I'm sorry, citizen comments. Back to council, any comments? Thank you very much. Let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, it passes 7-0 for me. Thank you very much. Do we have an alternate? I know Mark Beam sometimes attends these, and if you'd like to, I'd be more than happy to nominate you because I've seen you at most of these, so. Okay. Anybody else for nomination for a second? I don't think we need a third, but if we want, we could, but just let's go with seconds. Any council comments? Citizen comments? Back to council. Madam Clerk. Mark, this is for Mark Beam as the alternate.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, passes 7-0. Mark, there's no more bacon and eggs because they're closed now. It's all virtual, so. We might get them pretty soon here, so we're going to keep working on it. Okay, thank you, folks. Consideration of selecting council members as voting delegate and alternate voting delegate for the Florida League of Cities. Same deal, nominate and elect voting delegates. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Nominations.
I nominate Mayor Manzo.
Thank you. Accept that if council wishes.
And alternate Mark Bean.
Can we just do them both at the same time?
The League of Cities last year with the vice mayor went to this. I think this year they're doing it virtual, so Vice Mayor Gunn had also attended. Vice Mayor, I'll nominate you. Are you interested as a second?
That's not going to happen.
I'm sorry?
No, thank you. I respectfully decline.
Declines. Looks like it's you, Mark. You were nominated. It's late. Get a virtual trip to Boca Raton. Okay, well, so can we do this together? Patty, we let us do it together? It looks like we're going out unanimous. Okay. If you have an objection, just split your vote then. And you're calling for myself as the voting delegate and Mark Beam as the alternate.
Councilmember Bean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. I'll be your voting delegate. I'm not sure I'm going in person. I think it's right now it's virtual, so, and Mark Beam will be the alternate. 28, consideration of selecting council members as voting director and alternate voting director for the Suncoast League of Cities. Nominate and select voting directors. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I've got a tie. That's good. Seconded.
I nominate Mayor Manzo
Thank
and
you.
alternate Mark Bean.
I will say this, I've tailed off my I've tailed off my attendance a little bit with Suncoast League of Cities. I just kind of felt that our participation wasn't really being valued last year. I myself and a couple other mayors participated in the planning session. We came up with very good suggestions, including the short-term rentals here, and they ignored all of it. And I said, well, what am I wasting my time here for? I have other meetings. So I will, with that proviso, I'll be more than happy to represent this city, but I can't say that my attendance is going to be perfect with this thing. Normally I try to get perfect attendance, so I'm a little disillusioned right now with Suncoast, and maybe that'll change this year, but
I will agree with you. I went,
thank you.
was a delegate years ago.
Yep. So if you're happy with that, I'll be more than happy to represent you, but if I attend 5 of the 12, that may be all I'm going to do, so if it's virtual, I'll do more of them. So, everybody okay with that? I accept it. Any citizen comments? Back to council. Let's take a vote. So it's be myself as the voting member and Mark Beam as the alternate. Argument, this means you have
Is
to.
that because I'm the old guy?
Well, no, this means you have to run and win again, and because this is for a year, you know. So that means you have to, anyway. Just so you know.
I'm gonna pass it on to my table mate.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please call? We're going to roll vote both of them together, myself as the main and Marv as the alternate, and if you want to split your vote, go ahead.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. Thank you. Okay, so the item 29, I'm sorry, I mixed up the explanation of 26 and 29. The one was for Florida League of Cities, 27. We don't usually participate that much in that. 29 is for the annual convention. That's the one that Glenn Gunn and I went to last year. So number 29 is consideration of delegating the voting, consideration of designating the voting delegate for the 94th Florida League of Cities annual conference business meetings. Conference is for business meeting only. Delegate may choose remote access or in person. All voting will be electronic. Last year I voted for you. I voted and Glenn Gunn was the alternate. This is pretty much perfunctory. Everything they put on the agenda passes. So it's that simple. There's 20,000 people in the room and you're just one vote. But I'll be more than happy to do it. Can we get a motion first?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Thanks. We have nomination?
Nominate Mayor Manzo and Vice Mayor Gunn for alternate.
Vice Mayor, do you want to serve on that one? That's that annual convention.
No, I respectfully decline. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Case
you.
Mark B.
I guess it's Mark Beam again. You got double nomination. Anybody else? There you go. Okay, citizen comments? Back to council. It's consideration of the voting delegate for the 94th Florida League of Cities Annual Conference business meetings. We're nominating myself for the voter and Marv as the alternate. All voting will be electronic. Madam Clerk, please call.
Councilmember Dean.
Aye.
Councilmember Gaddis.
Aye.
Councilmember Shirley.
Aye.
Councilmember Swope.
Aye.
Councilmember Aki.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gunn.
Aye.
Mayor Manzo.
Aye, so it passes 7-0. Thank you everyone for your, for having me as your voting delegate. I'm sure Mark appreciates it also. Unfinished business, we're finally out of our agenda. Unfinished business is seawalls and docks. And I believe that must have been, I don't think it's Mark's issue, but City Manager Mark Beam, I know these are your
Yeah,
issues.
so we kept this on here, but we're still doing some research. We're gonna have to get an engineer. Right, there's a lot more work to be done with it. I think the other two items you've already resolved.
We have, we didn't move virtual meetings. I had in my notes, this is different from item 21. It isn't, so if it's okay with everyone, we're just going to scratch that from the agenda. We covered it already. No objections, scratched. Any other comments on seawalls and docks? Beach access, okay.
I think we're going to have to put together something, maybe Laura could do, in regards to whatever code she feels need to be redone. And either have a committee or have a work session.
I think we talked about doing a committee in the fall, before we can have that, to look at seawall stocks and some other things. Hopefully.
Question for you, Dave. On seawalls, I know you mentioned that we need an expert. So if you read over the information I gave you, to the city manager, we got last time in the work session. What part of that information kind of is a guideline, a basic guideline, soil behind the seawall falling, crack gaps and gaps between them. So that could be a basic indicator that something needs to be done, along with, there was a newspaper article that I made a statement, well, seawalls haven't been inspected in several years, actually, it's 70 years. So we don't even have any type of inspection for those
Is this a conversation for everyone to hear? Because I'm not really hearing it, and if we're talking, I mean, do we need to engage an engineer to tell you that? Because I don't, we're all kind of laymen when it comes to that, aren't we?
Yes. We need to get some professional,
Exactly. Otherwise, we're
spinning our wheels.
where people spend money or fine for things that aren't necessarily a problem around them. Just so their wall's not pretty.
We'll look further into that and then collect some more data. And, going forward, hopefully, I'm guessing it's probably, as I said, at the work session, there'll probably be something we do in the fall.
I would like, anyone complaining about debris falling off of someone's dock or seawall and floating in the water, that should be a good sign. As time stands right now, go check it out.
Right.
Any other comments on item 30? Include that. City attorney, any comments?
No, sir.
City manager, any comments?
Well, I've given you all a very special package tonight. Your budget, and what you're going to see in your packet, it's in the thing. This is the actual budget that we're submitting. So we've given you also a spreadsheet so you can look at the expenses and the totals for each line item. And then as backup, which is not going to be part of the budget that we officially post, is all the detail, like things like we're spending $300 on the Suncoast League of Cities for a membership. That details in this section. And then finally, you've got this large spreadsheet, and if you could get that back to me by the end of the week, it'd be great, because the budget work session is on Monday, and I would like to have your rankings so we can give you what all the council members said. So if you could just go down the list, there's a column there, it says council priority, rank it 1, 2, 3, 4, however you feel like. So this is what we'll be going over next Monday, and as it stands now, we'll be doing it virtually. And if going through this packet, if you have any questions, call me. We can resolve a lot of that. Hopefully. Also, the Penny 4 funding for Gulf Boulevard, just to kind of give you an update. Looks like we're going to get in 2021 $240,000, and that's for us to do the undergrounding of Long Gulf Boulevard. And then 4 years of $676,000. We haven't resolved the issue with Dollar Shore, and I will discuss that with them if they're going to do what they did last time, basically gave us their own end, so we had a plot.
Are they paying for your services to supervise?
No.
Should they be?
I don't think so. It's benefiting us just as much as them. They gave us, I don't remember what their portion last time. I think it was like 900,000. This time it is 1.1 million. So
New project.
if that's going to help us get that underground around Gulf Boulevard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they're gonna be done with their portion of the project, so that's really comes to us. So that's
I think
compensation enough.
We'll get some of the unused money, is that how we, okay, I'm good with
Well,
that.
Self-benefiting both
Yeah, yeah,
cities.
no, I'm okay with that.
well, the last time around, they gave it all to us, and then we used it for the projects.
Okay.
So
All right.
that worked out.
Liam, is this in spreadsheet format? I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah, I can email it to
It's
you.
Excel or something?
Yeah.
Could you send that out to all of us?
Yeah, I will.
think I'd
I'll send it in the
rather-
morning. That way you can just send it back to me. And the last thing I've got tonight, or we can keep going now. I gave you something from
got it today that Nellis County is going to charge us to set up the fee in their billing cycle. And it's through a company called Vertex One, and there's some background information in it. But we're going to have to approve this to get our billing set up for the stormwater. So it's a little higher than I thought it would be, but I may come back and see if I can squeeze it in.
That seems high.
Yeah. But it's a new vendor for the county. They transferred all their utility, water, everything to this vendor. So, and that's all I've got.
May I make a suggestion? Next time you make a 34-piece agenda, cut it in half, and then cut it in half again. 1/3.
Or please warn everyone, hey, you do realize, you don't realize, but there's 30 items on this agenda.
34.
It's a catch-up for not having meetings.
Yeah, I know. This is
Having
payment.
those virtual meetings
This
that
is-
didn't go well.
This is payback, yeah. Okay, city clerk, anything?
Yeah.
Thank you. City council, I don't even know what month it is. I'm just going to start here and we'll leave us all to work our way around.
I don't have any other comments.
Sure.
Nothing, thank you.
Nope. Yes. I'm just gonna go in order here, okay? Mine's very quick. I got a letter back on June 19th from the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative. They want $58,835 for us to join the cooperative. I don't believe we've done that in recent memory. But we don't have to tell them that we want to, well, unless we want to do it, unless the council has interest with this, I'm just gonna put that word to your attention. Good consensus, nobody wants to join this?
No, thank you.
No, vote, no, okay. Citizen comments? Okay. All right, Patty, I'm just going to say declined and give you a copy of the, you keep the original, okay? The only other comment I have, census, I think it's due for October. We're averaging about 50%. Believe it or not, they're actually tracking this at the big C, and we were up towards the top, but I don't want to like fall to the bottom. So I know you have it on the website, that's great, thank you. Maybe we can just put it on, anytime we do a mailer or anything else to the citizens, we gotta get that in, it's pretty important for the city, so that's all we have to do. I did do a public service announcement on this, it was filmed, you should have gotten it, it was done from the county, I don't know whatever happened to it, but they were supposed to send it to you, so, that you can put up. You could put it on the website. I'll probably scare them off if I do it, but I did do a public service announcement, so you could use it on the television if you want. Other than that, thank you. Thanks for hanging in with us. Marky? No comment? Rob?
No comment, I just want to clarify, our next meeting is July 13th and then July 20th, right?
Correct. July 16th and then July 20th. But I'm sorry, that's communications, right? And July 20th is the next council meeting after that. Yep, and then August 3 is the regular council meeting. Okay. Glenn Gunn?
Yeah, you know, all I want to say is the truth has changed. I am totally on board with these virtual meetings. And as the only pilot here, I would recommend that y'all get in your airplanes and fly to North Carolina like I did.
Sounds good. I'll get into my plane. Okay.
I don't think you flew up there.
What? All right.
Listen.
Would anybody like to stay later, or can I entertain a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.